Hazarian mafia bosses offer to return Tsarist gold to Russia in exchange for shelter. Posted on benjaminfulford.net. By Benjamin Fulford. Reliable Russian and CIA contacts both told the White Dragon Society that the top bosses of the Hazarian mafia are seeking to trade shelter in Russia for gold. This is just the latest in a whole slew of signs Hazarian mafia rule of the planet Earth is crumbling. The White Dragon Society and its allies will continue to press the offensive with the aim of permanently ending their rule as early as this autumn. Another big sign of Hazarian mafia defeat has been the degrading treatment given to United States of America corporate spokesperson Barack Obama in Asia and elsewhere. Obama was literally denied red carpet treatment on his arrival in China for last weekend's G20 summit. This was in sharp contrast to the super VIP treatment given to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has been recommended to China by the WDs as a better leader for North America than either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. Trudeau was treated like a superstar in China during a one-week visit that resulted in Canada publicly dumping its support of the U.S. corporate government by announcing its intention to join the China-led AIIB. Japan is now expected to follow suit, leaving the U.S. corporate government isolated on the world stage. Obama was also forced to cancel a planned meeting with Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte after Duterte called him a son of a whore. Barack Obama cancels meeting after Philippines President, TheGuardian.com. Rodrigo Duterte further strains diplomatic ties with Washington as he warns U.S. leader not to question him on matters because the U.S. corporate shift to Asia depended in large part on stoking territorial disputes between China, the Philippines and other ASEAN countries. Instead, the ASEAN countries agreed with China to settle their territorial disputes peacefully. There is a lot more humiliation and hopefully oblivion in store for the U.S. corporate government as the September 31 fiscal year end approaches. Efforts to finally bankrupt them center on international dumping of U.S. Treasury bonds combined with gold buying. There is also a huge campaign underway now to make sure the supply of drug and oil money to the Federal Reserve Board and its U.S. corporate government subsidiary is cut off so they will be unable to kick the bankruptcy can down the road any further. Duterte's murderous campaign against drug dealers in the Philippines is just one aspect of this. The big campaign to cut off cocaine money from South America is also intensifying. The U.S. military white hats are doing their part by cutting off all Bush/Clinton Nazi faction CIA drug flights through the Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, the Ramstein Air Base in Germany and the Bondsteel Base in Kosovo, Pentagon sources say. The recent confusing and contradictory news about ISIS in Iraq and Syria is all about cutting off oil revenue to the Bush/Clinton faction of the cabal. The Russians and U.S. military white hats are now cooperating with the Turks, the Iranians, and the Syrians to make this happen. The situation has reached the point where the handlers of Hillary Clinton contacted the WDs to say they were planning to end Hillary's bid for president. They are either going to use her poor health as a reason for her to quit or else they will have her assuming Donald Trump was involved, the Clinton handlers say. Recent U.S. corporate media headlines indicate it is the Heath option they are going to choose. There is also growing evidence that most Hillary Clinton public appearances being shown in the media are being done with blue screen technology, meaning she is either avoiding dealing with real audiences or that she is no longer around. A high-level Part2 Freemason Lodge source says that look-alikes or clones can only be used to read pre-written speeches or cut ribbons but are not able to carry out complex conversations. This may explain why Hillary has been avoiding press conferences for close to a year. Copies alleged to be of Hillary's medical reports, forwarded by the CIA, can be seen below. Since Hillary is supported by Evelyn de Rothschild as well as the Bush/Rockefeller/Clinton mafia, you can be sure that if they give up on using her persona, they have a scenario in mind that will involve someone other than Donald Trump becoming the next U.S. president. Although the U.S. military backs Trump, this does not necessarily mean Donald Trump will become the next U.S. president, because the bankruptcy of the U.S. corporate government may lead to an entirely different scenario. The Trudeau North American option mentioned above is just one of those. In fact, in a clear sign things have already changed. Flags of the Republic of the United States of America were clearly visible in the background of a speech Obama made in China at the end of the G20 meeting. This can be confirmed in the first seconds of this video. Until now, Obama has typically spoken with the gold-fringed Admiralty flags of the U.S. corporation in the background. Of House slave Obama changed hands during the G20. In any case, the usual suspects are unlikely to be able to manipulate events in the US or elsewhere the way they have been used to. The rejection of in the US and Europe of the TTIP and TTP fascist treaties negotiated by the Hazarians is a clear sign of this. These treaties are being rejected because they place a special tribunal, controlled by the Rockefellers etc. above elected governments. The EU crackdown on tax cheating by US corporations like Apple, Google, Amazon, and McDonald's is yet another clear sign of a European break with the US faction of the Hazarian Mafia. The G20 countries have all agreed that use of tax havens by multinational corporations to avoid taxes is going to end, and the Europeans have shown the way. The Europeans have also been systematically shifting their financial assets to China. Nathaniel Rothschild and his side, Jacob, of the Rothschild family, for example, have shifted most of their assets to China during the past 18 months, Mossad sources in Europe confirm. The Rockefellers, Bushes, Clintons, and the dark side of the Rothschild family, Evelyn, are now negotiating with the Chinese, the source says. That is what the Russian sources mentioned at the top of this newsletter contacted the WDs about. In Asia, meanwhile, there is a huge secret battle being waged in Thailand over that country's historical gold treasure. Sources in the Thai royal family and CIA sources in Asia confirm there is a serious succession struggle going on there. Here is the raw intel on this subject. England was sent this message from the royal palace: the king is not well, he has fluid on his lungs and his liver is not functioning properly. This brings about this: the crown prince, who is dying of AIDS, goes to England and Germany every month for blood transfusions, becomes the king. And, now sit down for this one, the prince is financed by Thaksin Shinawatra. So what a way to bring Thaksin back into power. Thaksin was behind the red shirt movement in Thailand that many, including this writer, suspected was a Hazarian plot to steal Thailand's gold. More raw intelligence below. Here is a little more background on the relationship with Thaksin and the Crown Prince. It is known that the Crown Prince is a heavy gambler. Several years ago, when Thaksin was still PM of Thailand, he personally saw to it that the gambling debts of the Crown Prince were settled. This amounted to around $300 million. Ever since then, a chit has been out there, waiting to be settled. The royal palace elites run the operation in Thailand. Has been out of the picture for many years. As for the Queen, she left this dimension back in 2012. A double has been sitting in since then. The elites behind the scene have been trying to come up with a way to find another alternative to keep the Crown Prince from taking the throne, including changing the constitution and having the princess take the throne. This is one of the reasons for the military to be charged now. I have said for years that the best scenario for the Thai people would be the announcement by the royal palace that the king and queen passed away together in each other's arms. The Thais would accept this fairy tale ending. The elites will have to make a decision very soon. They cannot keep the king in the hospital, with more and more operations, fevers, infections, etc., story going much longer. I happen to have Russian intel from several years ago that explains in detail with photographs the fraud that has been played on the people of Thailand and the world regarding the king and queen. The Thai people need to look at other historical examples from other countries with a long imperial history like England and Japan to come up with a good plan for dealing with the succession crisis in a way that strengthens Thailand and its institutions. Finally, this week, there is some interesting X-Files stuff going on that needs to be reported on. For one, the explosion of the SpaceX rocket in Florida last week has been widely reported as being caused by a UFO, and there is plenty of video evidence to back this up. Since this has been widely covered elsewhere, we will only touch on the possible motive for this. The Israeli satellite that was supposed to be launched was intended to beam only Facebook-controlled internet data to Africa. Since Facebook is a Rockefeller outfit, clearly somebody powerful did not want Africa to be subjected to Rockefeller/Facebook mind control. Much less discussed than the SpaceX explosion, but probably more important, was the earthquake reported on the U.S. East Coast last week. CIA sources say this was not an ordinary earthquake but rather an attack on U.S. underground bases. They sent a photograph of the epicenter, orange dot in photo below, and it is located right next to some rather mysterious buildings. Due to an intensifying space war, more and more news items linking X-Files type events with mainstream reports can be expected, according to sources in the extraterrestrial-linked faction of the military-industrial complex. There can be no doubt about it, we are living in historical times. This we must make sure the good guys win. Thanks for listening and watching. Subscribe and share.